What is up, guys? It is IPM. Got it, because my name shortens to IPM. And so Anyways, today we are continuing what I started in the previous video, which was to basically rank every perk that is available for someone who only bought the game. So this is a DLC free video. I will also talk about what survivor or killer to prioritize overall. As always, these opinions are my own, and this topic is extremely subjective. Timestamps are in the description if you need anything specific. Let's get started. Dwight. Dwight suffers from being old due to how his perks were designed around the teamworking aspect of DBD that is now mostly gone from modern games, which is grouping. Dwight's perks shine in situations where you are more than two survivors gathered in the same spot, and nowadays survivors avoid doing this at all cost. I sometimes see two of my teammates when someone other than me comes to unhook a mate, but that's about it. This makes Dwight a fairly low priority target. For perks we have Bond, which is actually the better of the three, I would say. Bond was designed to find your mates and stick with them, eventually rallying everyone, but now you can either use this to stick to one person, know where the killer is through where the one being chased is, or just go in a different direction than your mate in order to thread generate his progress as much as possible. You could also use it to find your teammates and heal them, and it could also help you coordinate better in an hook in late game, for example. Anyways, more information on your teammate's position is always good, and it's a pretty good perk in my opinion. So I'll say B tier. Leader. I don't think I've ever had a situation where the perk actually mattered in like 10 years of Dead by Daylight. I'm not even kidding. On paper, this perk is pretty okay. It gives 30% speed to many actions of your teammates, omitting mainly repair speed. The most used is probably the healing. You get healed faster by others with it, which isn't really insane. Or you could boost another mate to heal with you, in which case the heal was going to be done in a short time already, so not great either. Second best use case is probably to buff exit gate opening speed, but I don't know about you guys, I don't have many games where a teammate can just chill and stare at me while I open the gate. There's always some crazy stuff happening. I'm gonna put it to C tier because I just don't think it's really good. I'd definitely prefer running anything from the B tier. Prove thyself can do a lot, but once again, when are you really 2 or 3 on the same gen? Just mostly doesn't happen. This perk boosts the gen repair speed for you and nearby teammates depending on how many there are. I should mention I mostly solo or duo queue in this game, and I believe this perk is really strong when you are in a full squad. And in this case, I would say that someone with Prove Thyself would be great in a full team of 4 because you essentially have 16 perks to choose from for the team. Whereas in solo queue, it leaves you with 4 perks to do everything in the game. However, since not everyone can use this well, and even if used well, it's not insane, I'm going to put it into B tier too. Now on to Meg's perks. Meg is a very high priority character, and probably the highest priority for free-to-play players. The perks are legit all good and still relevant, since they all want to make your chases last longer. Adrenaline only activates once, but it can totally change the course of the game. Once generators are done, you gain a health state and a speed boost of 150% for 3 seconds. And I can't quantify how many of my killer games have been ruined because of survivors noticing the last generator is about to be done, finding me to get chased, and then either when I injure them or make them go down, the last gen gets popped. They get back up and flash away with the speed boost. This perk is really strong, and even if you don't need the heal, it ignores exhaustion, so you could just sprint burst into adrenaline to a gate to get it open. I'd usually say it's an A tier perk, but considering the FTP pool, this is pretty definitely a S tier perk. Weak and Quiet. The weakest of the 3 perks is somehow pretty strong. For many years the perk was underrated, but Quick and Quiet allows many dumb plays that would otherwise not be doable. You could fast vault or fast enter lockers outside of chases, but it also allows you to do silent vaults during a chase, which will at the very least make the killer doubt himself. But it can make you gain quite a bit of time due to the killer's confusion. You can also fast enter a locker after breaking line of sight mid-chase and just watch as the player doesn't understand where you went, which is pretty fun. Overall, a pretty easy perk, but it can have a lot of impact, so I'll put it into B tier. Sprint burst, S tier, I mean literally busted. You can start on a mega sprint whenever you want. The only possible downside of this perk is you have to be careful to not walk anywhere to save it all the time. It's okay to use it outside of chases. Not doing so will make you lose more than being without perks, so please go unhook your mates with it. Going on to Claudette, which is an okay character. I wouldn't really target Claudette first. I'd say maybe get her perks before Dwight, but not second or third, maybe fourth. You mainly want botany knowledge on her, but you could also play her actually to get more wins. It sounds very dumb, but due to Claudette's skin color, a small build, and her darker clothes, if you play on a map with a lot of darkness, you will genuinely camouflage a lot better into the surroundings than with a character like David King, for example. Onto the actual perks now. As I said, botany knowledge is probably the only perks you'll want from her. This gives a flat 50% speed to all heals, so it's pretty useful. It works when healing others or yourself with a medkit. This is probably one of the best healing perks for free-to-play players, and I would kinda recommend using it. It is very simple and doesn't require any thinking to use it, it's just a passive buff. I honestly kinda hesitated on where to put it, but I think I'll put it into A tier. Empathy is a perk that allows you to see the aura of your injured teammates. The intended purpose of this perk is to go to them to heal them. How I use it though is as soon as someone gets injured, it means the killer is on them, and I will then either steal clear from them or their general direction, or go to tank hits if we are in late game. Now with the HUD, you can do both, since it tells you if the injured person is being chased or not. But I'm saying this as if it's new, that HUD has been reworked like ages ago, but I'm old, okay? I still remember using the perk without it. It's overall an okay perk. It doesn't like revolutionize... what? It doesn't revolutionize anything, but I'll put it into B tier. Finally, we have self-care. If you're a beginner, self-care like just goes into D tier. It takes like so long to heal yourself, you could genuinely do a generator in the meantime. But if you're a bit more experienced, you could genuinely use it well. I know on the Japanese servers, it's still one of the strongest perk, just because they use it differently from us. I don't really want to rank it too low. I think just running a medkit would be better anyways. Jake Park, well, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't have much to offer. It has like one useful perk if you don't run exhaustion perks, and that's about it. So it's a pretty low priority target. His main asset is Iron Will, which makes your grunts of pain while injured completely disappear. That is, if you are not exhausted. And exhaustion is only caused by perks like Sprint Burst. Iron Will used to be top tier, but ever since this downside, I completely stopped using it, so I'm kinda biased. Nightlights tells me that it's still the 9th most used perk in the last 2 weeks, and that sounds genuinely insane to me. Basically, if you do not run an exhaustion perk, which I feel like you should, Iron will be an immediate S tier. However, in reality, you will probably run one, and some killer perks can also inflict you with exhaustion status effects. Overall, I'll put it into A tier due to peer pressure, although it's kinda dead to me and would deserve the C tier. Calm Spirit, my beloved, got butchered in 6.1.0 because of the added slower speed on certain actions. I liked this perk a lot, but right now it essentially has one use cases, and that is that if you know you are going to face the doctor, which is basically only possible in tournaments or when playing in custom games with your friends, this perk is S tier. However, for this tier list, that's pretty meh. If the killer has a hex, you literally cannot break it yourself, but no screaming can be good. It still needs too much good luck to be useful, so I'll put it into D tier. Saboteur, just why bring a toolbox? This perk was good when the sabotage progress didn't reset on hooks, but now, like, why? I guess with it you could know that the killer is running a scourge hook, but that's about the most usefulness you're going to get from this. Like, it's going straight into D tier. Yeah, I don't care, it's my video. Do you say why it's usable in the comments? I will read, make an answer video even, but now it stays in D tier. Nia is one of the characters of all time. Just like Claudette, the small build might be useful for stealth. You might wonder why I didn't say that about Meg, by the way, and it's just because her grunts of pain are obnoxiously loud. I say to go for Nia's perks before Jake's, but they aren't really priority. Balanced Landing is an okay exhaustion perk, but that requires a huge fall to activate, meaning that it is very map dependent. Some people use it in the same build as Dead Hard, another exhaustion perk, to be sure to have one in case the map doesn't allow them to activate Balanced Landing. Otherwise, if activated, this perk is really good, since it also negates the recovery time that survivors have after a big fall. Overall, exhaustion perks are just too good to put anything below A tier. Streetwise, unfortunately got changed and somehow is worse now? That's crazy. Now Streetwise makes it so the first time you deplete an item's charges, you see the killer's aura for 8 seconds. And whenever you loot an item from a chest, it has 80% more charges. I would put the old one in C tier, but now as I see it interacts with chests, and chests are like the biggest waste of time in this game, I'll put it straight up into D tier. In a normal game, the aura effect would only work once, and the effect itself is not so good that you would go out of your way to get it. And I guess it could be useful in a chase if you have a key or a flashlight, allowing you to win a few 50-50 on the toll loop. But walking once is kinda tough. Urban evasion. Sneaking faster is pretty good when hiding, especially in these moments where a killer just reached your generator and you're turning around a boulder to avoid like line of sight. Apart from this moment, it isn't really useful, hence why I wouldn't put it above B tier, so there it goes. Now going on to Bill's perk, and Bill used to be a pretty high priority target, but now is a pretty middle of the road priority target. I'd say maybe the exact middle, because honestly I would maybe go for him to get Unbreakable after getting David and Meg's perks, so third priority I guess. Borrowed Time used to be an S tier perk, but nowadays half of this perk became default, hence the perk is now pretty much useless. At most it could surprise a killer once, but it would also require them to tunnel, which doesn't really happen every game. In tunnel heavy metas, this perk could be higher, but since I came back to this game, I haven't really been tunneled out or felt the need to tunnel. I'll put this perk into C tier for now. Could be buffed, I don't know, depends. Left Behind. I feel like this perk is only used for Adept or for challenges that requires living through a trap. Essentially a dead perk slot if you ask me. It's still good for its niche I guess, but I wouldn't put it past D tier. Essentially this perk just reveals the trap to you when every single one of your mates are dead. And I mean, to make survivors win, having a perk that only activates once they're all dead doesn't really help. Finally, Unbreakable. Call me crazy, but nowadays I rarely get slugged. When running this perk, you won't use it in most of your games, but the few times you're going to use it, it's going to be fantastic. It basically allows you to recover from the ground alone, but only once. It's very punishing against slugging. I think I'm going to put this into A tier, maybe S. I don't know, I don't see that much slug nowadays, so I'll let it be an A tier. Finally, for survivors we have David King, which is a pretty high priority target. First or second after Meg, maybe second. His perks are versatile, but as said before, he is not made for stealth due to his huge build. For his perks we have Dead Hard, which is known as an anti-tunnel perk, meaning a perk that desensitizes the killer from going after you right after you got unhooked. However, it can only be used twice a game because of how you get it, and you might even miss it. It's still a very good perk that literally gives you a free health state if you succeed. I'll put it into S tier. No Mither. Do not use this perk if you're a beginner. I think nowadays it's more usable if you have a lot of DLC perks that gives you endurance, but not being able to be healthy is an insane downside. And you will basically never get back up alone, because who would slug a no Mither? Also, if you have this perk and somehow fight an Oni, congratulations, you just made your team lose the game. So this is going straight into D tier. We're gonna live forever. This is a really good anti-slug perk. I would recommend pairing it with Sprint Burst in case two of your mates get down at the same time, so you can Sprint Burst to the one that didn't get picked up and hopefully get him up fast enough thanks to the healing buff this perk provides. Giving people you get up entrance is also really good, as you can take big risks and not do the famous I just got him up when the killer arrived so he got instantly downed without being able to move. So this is overall a very good perk, straight into A tier. I was about to say most of these did go pretty high in the tier list, but there's still a fair number of bad perks. Overall, I think you have a lot of diversity when it comes to perks as a survivor. You don't really miss having no DLC. The perks are pretty good even without them. I think literally the only perk that's like Omega meta that you're missing is Vigil, or maybe something like 2 moves ahead. But I think even without this, you can make absolutely insane builds. Even with just the perks in S or A tier, you can do really good builds. Now switching over to killer, we have the Trapper. Trapper, I'm not gonna lie, like no killer is actually a priority target, mainly because like not one rises so much above the others in terms of perks, but also because depending on what killer you're going to play, what perks you want will drastically change. If you want to main Trapper, obviously, or Wraith, then I would say to invest in him. but he is a pretty middle of the road target to level up. If you have more killers, you will mainly want Brutal Strength from Trapper, which is a perk that shines most on M1 killers, meaning killers that damage survivors with the normal attack and not their power. But overall, I'd say I'd go for other killers. First, we have Agitation, which is a pretty okay perk. I prefer it to Iron Grasp, but I'm not sure if it's just because in my head faster means better. However, to me it kind of serves the same role, which is to bring survivors to your Scourge Hook. And if your F2P, Scourge Hook is either Monstrous Shrine or Gift of Pain, which is kinda limited. I'll put it into B tier, same as Iron Grasp. And let's say if you want to run it, you either have to run Gift of Pain or play Basement Trapper. Brutal Strength is the most played F2P killer perk, so it has to be good, right? Brutal Strength makes you break pallets and kicks generators 20% faster, which is kinda low. I actually think this perk got shadow buffed recently. First of all, as always, the killer's time is extremely valuable, so having this perk is always good. It allows you to continue chase faster and diminishes how long a boring action takes, which kinda helps making the game feel less tedious. And it's even more tedious because there are now more pallets on the map than ever before. So this means that killers will have to spend more time breaking pallets, and now doing it faster is even better. This perk kinda feels like it belongs into B tier, but I would prefer running it compared to the rest of B, so I'll say A tier. Unnerving Presence is crazy bad. This perk will low-key make you lose games. First of all, it makes survivors in your terror radius have 10% more skill checks, which is great for them because they have more chances of hitting a perfect and get a bonus in whatever they're doing. But it also makes the skill check itself smaller, leading to it basically being a 50-50 between a normal and a perfect. And it might sound weird, but you will aim way better with these sorts of kill checks. Now, I don't know how it works. Maybe it's like aim small, miss small logic. But looking like I never miss skill checks when I have this perk against me. So I'll put this into E tier. Should you level up Wraith? Well, if you want to play Nurse or a ranged killer like Huntress, then I would say yes. Predator is basically the only reason you'd level him up, and it's a pretty good perk even for other killers. I think he should be leveled up pretty quickly. Going to actual perks, we have Bloodhound, and just why? This perk just makes the blood of injured survivors brighter, and the only use I can find for it is it can be good on maps with a lot of bloods on the ground. Like for example, the second Ormond map keeps baiting me into corners that have just dead bodies. I'm just trying to find my survivors, but I just can't find them because there is blood everywhere on the ground and I can't differentiate them. So I'd say from very niche uses in very specific maps, I don't think Bloodhound is a good perk, so I'll put it into D tier. Predator is actually goated. This perk allows you to see a survivor through the walls that you've lost chase with. It's extremely good, especially on ranged or dash killers, as it allows you to line up your shot perfectly or just teleport or dash to the survivor pretty easily. You also lose chase quite easily in Dead by Daylight, so it's unironically a good thing for this perk. And you might even be able to remain Bloodlust, because Bloodlust doesn't go away instantly, it decreases slowly. So if you lose chase, have Predator proc and enter chase right afterwards, you could just see through walls with Bloodlust, which is pretty good. In general, I think the perk gives really good aura reading, and I'm going to put it into S tier. Hey, first S tier for killers. Then I hope we see more S tiers for killers. Actually, it's pretty sad right now. Shadowborn, just why again? This perk makes it that so if you're blinded, you get a speed buff, but the speed buff is useless because you're either stunned from the flashlight save or in the breaking animation, or just blind. Although 10 seconds is a lot, it's just like not something you can choose to activate. I guess if you know you're going against a full swift of flashlights, it could be useful. I mean, you can see the items of survivors in the lobby, so if you see there's a lot of flashlights, you could run Shadowborn, I guess. I'll put it into D tier, but I'm not really convinced. Now going over to Hillbilly, who has pretty cool perks. I wouldn't prioritize him. I think he's a middle of the road, just like Trapper, maybe just above Trapper. Maybe go Wraith, then Billy, then Trapper. His perks are pretty good on every killer, starting with Enduring, which I'll put into B tier and not A tier due to the lack of Spirit Fury. Enduring, Spirit Fury, Brutal Strength is like often a core combo. Enduring makes you recover from pallet stuns faster, and it's usually paired with a perk that breaks the pallet when it falls on your head if you kick 2 other pallets before, which is Spirit Fury. But without Spirit Fury, Enduring is kinda mid. I mean, you recover faster. I guess you could still run it with Brutal Strength and try to just shred through pallets. And since there's a lot of pallets nowadays, it might be useful. But you've gotta be careful too, because there are two types of palettes in the game. There are like extremely good palettes, like often called god palettes, and the type of palettes that are pretty bad, like the 50-50 palettes. And on bad palettes, if you get stunned, survivors will have enough time to reach another palette. Whereas even if you don't get stunned, most often than not, just throwing a god palette will slow you down a lot. So you really don't want to use enduring on palettes where you could still outplay it even if the palette is thrown. Although with enduring you might have just enough time if the palettes aren't closed enough. I still don't think it's great. Lightborn, which is another perk like Shadowborn, which actually depends more on the survivors than the killer you're using. Lightborn makes it so you're immune to flashlight blinds, which is pretty good. I'm kinda split between saying it's a good perk that just allows you to not get flashlight and it's pretty great. But at the same time, if you just look at the walls while picking up, you're pretty much immune to flashlight saves. I don't know, I'm kinda split on that. Basically, I feel like if you are against a full survivor team of 4 flashlights, it could be cool to have Lightborn. Otherwise, I don't think it's a really good perk. I think it's going into C tier. It can definitely make your match. I mean, it can throw away the entire strategy of some survivors, but I think in most matches, it's just not good enough. And finally, we have Tinkerer, which is one of the few F2P stealth perks, but also a great tool to go on near completed gens. Kinda an anti-gen perk, I guess. Basically, this perk gives you a warning when a generator reaches 70% completion and also makes you undetectable. It's a pretty useful perk, especially on killers with a lot of mobility, but even without, it's a pretty cool way of knowing a generator is close to being done, and you can approach said generator pretty silently due to the undetectable. The two effects go well together, and even without going to the generator, you get free stealth, which is pretty good too, depending on what you're doing. I'm going to put this into A tier. Nurse. If you're a new player, I wouldn't really recommend playing Nurse. However, leveling up Nurse can be really good just to get Nurse's Calling, which is a really good aura reading perk. Nurse's Calling is extremely good on Huntress, Nurse, or Wraith. It basically makes you see the aura of survivors that are healing. So since survivors don't expect it anymore, it can actually do a lot of work, and I'm going to put it into S tier too, because having aura reading on people who are injured is great, because just one hit and you have a down. It's just fantastic. It's better than normal aura reading at least. Strider is, when it's like a perk for spirit mains, I guess. You like hear the grunts of pain more, but it's not great. It's pretty survivors dependent too, because some survivors like Ada, for example, don't do any noise when injured, which is insane. So depending on what you're fighting, it might actually be useless. I guess if you know how loud every single survivor is in the game, and you see like you are against a full team of middle of the road noisy survivors, you can use this perk to make them extra noisy. Realistically though, I don't think you should use Strider. I think it's a pretty bad perk, and I'm going to put it into... good question. What am I going to put it into? I guess I'll treat it kinda like Distressing, where Distressing is here because Doctor is pretty much the only one that can use it. And for me, Strider is really like a spirit perk. I'll let it in E tier. If you have spirit though, I mean, it might be great, I don't know. And finally, we have Thanatophobia, which got nerfed to the ground so much that even Kaneki can't run it. It would fit Wraith the most, but no way you're ever getting 4 people injured on him, except when you're about to win, I guess. Even in peak conditions all the time, I'd kinda run something else. I'll put it into D tier. Basically, the perk thrives on people being injured, and it's really tough to do. So many healing perks nowadays in the game are just too good for you to keep people injured. If you're running Legion though, it's a great perk. If you're not, then it's useless. And finally, we're reaching Huntress territory. Huntress is absolutely not to be prioritized when leveling up. I'd say you could literally just skip every single one of her perks if you don't like playing Huntress. Yes, these perks are that bad. Starting with Beast of Prey. Little anecdote here. Did you know IPM stands for I see through the future? Yeah, I couldn't get it to work. I'm saying this because in a video I had written a while ago, I did come up with a rework for this perk, and in patch 8.5.2, this exact rework got made. This perk is now way better than before, however F2P killers can't really use it. Bloodlust only gets up if you don't use your power, and it's basically either you playing Trapper or playing a weird like muffled chainsaw Billy that never uses chainsaw for a reason. It's really tough building Bloodlust with the base kit characters. I guess on Trapper you could get a few surprise attacks, but that's about it, so I'll put it into D tier. Territorial Imperative was also on my reward list, but didn't get one. So this perk is still very niche. It just shows you if a survivor enters the basement, if you're far enough from it. And I mean, there might be perks that require you to go to the basement nowadays, but they're not very common. So this is basically never going to be useful E tier. And finally, the final perk, that's pretty repetitive. The final perk of today's video is Hex Huntress Lullaby. I'm still not a huge fan of Hex Totems, and this perk effect is kinda bad. Basically, this perk makes it so every time you hook you get a token, and for each token survivors skill checks will be a little bit smaller, and the time between the audio warning and when the skill check appears also gets shortened. And when it's at 5 tokens, there is no audio warning before the skill check. So this perk can be good against beginners, I guess, but outside of it I think really good players can still hit skill checks even without the audio warning. And it's a Hex Totem, so it's pretty frail, and if you're F2P you don't have X Undying, so that means that if this token breaks, it's just gone. You could try to do some strategy with Thread of the Hunt to try and protect both of them, but it'd be a lot of work. I mean, the survivors also get more penalty if they fail the skill check, so I guess it could work. Overall, I think it's a pretty meh X Totem, so I'll put it into C tier. So if you want some definitive rankings for killers, I'd say you should probably go for Nurse first, then Wraith, then either Hillbilly or Trapper, and then finally Huntress. And for survivors, I would say focus Meg first, because every single perk is great. Then David King, basically anything but No Matter is good. Go for Bill or Nea then, and then Claudette, and then either Jake or Dwight. It doesn't matter after that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see my breakdown and ranking of the general perks that are right there, you should click on this video here, and else subscribe, like the video, comment whatever you do not agree with. But most importantly, have a great rest of your day. And imagine me doing an outro. Goodbye.